Stuart McCall's assistant manager at Preston North End, one of English football's great historical clubs. But of course, he made a huge impact in Scottish football. 7 trophy-laden years at Rangers, a major Scotland international, and then, of course, 4 fantastic years as Motherwell manager. I'm Derek McGregor. This is One on One, and Stuart opens up on it all and so much more. Stuart, there's such incredible depth to your career, player, coach, manager. But I'm going to start on the obvious one. The one people would expect me to start at, Stuart. Celtic. Farsley Celtic.
Oh, you had me going there.
The green and white hoops.
Mm-hmm.
Did you look good in them?
No. I tell you, do you know my first game, that was under 16s. I went from Pudsey Juniors. I mean, Farsley Celtic was the best team in Leeds. Best boys team. And as you say, green and white hoops. And I remember the first day, must have been in the summer, I actually wore my Rangers top under it when I was on hit. And then it got to half time and I was that warm and sweaty. I had to take the green and white one off and I had to take the Rangers one off and just wear the green and white one. But yeah, but good times, a lot of good pals. Yeah, and a lot went on to join professional clubs, although not have professional careers, unfortunately.
Of course, you would later life become a Rangers legend, but when the boys at Ibrox found out that you'd once wore the green and white hoops, was there a bit of banter there?
They never found out, Derek. Don't you worry about that. They never found out. It's funny because it was only a couple of weeks ago somebody showed me a clipping that was in a paper, and it was McCall. When I think I was about 20-year-old at Bradford, McCall to sign for Celtic. David Haid put 100 grand bid in. And I know Sir Alex had been down with Archie to watch me at Aberdeen, so I probably could have been north of the border sooner, but whether I'd have joined the green and white hoops of Celtic and not Farsley Celtic, I probably doubt.
Now, as a player, just short, 2 games short of 1,000 games overall, including Scotland?
Yeah, if I throw my good ones in, I'd get 1,000, yeah. But yeah, when I look back on it, 998, but that's all competitive games, you know, the ones that had a crowd in and you know, was competitive, yeah. So, yeah, 998, yeah, quite happy with that.
Retired at 40?
Yes, I was at Sheffield United and we played, I think it was Shrewsbury in the Cup, and I remember being on the edge of the box, and it was early Cup tie, League Cup tie, Neil Warnock was the manager, and the ball went over my head, and I was giving the boy who was chasing me about 10 yards, and he caught me and crossed it for a goal, and I don't think I retired, I think Neil Warnock retired me, but I did play when I was 40-year-old, yeah. I
mean, players do always say, I'll know when the time comes. Did you deep down know, or was there still part of you going, I want to carry on?
No, I'll be honest, I joined Neil at Sheffield United at 38 from Bradford, and they were a championship club. And my first game, I was away at Scarborough, and I'm looking down and I'm pre-match meal away at Scarborough because that was Neil's club, and I see some of our lads are on the dodgems, the other guys are having candy floss, and I'm thinking, what have I come here? You know, I expect to be dead professional. And I've got to say, I came back, I had an absolute shocking game, and I rung my missus on the bus back, and I says, listen, I made a shocking decision. I should have hung my boots up at 38. I don't know, what I'm thinking about coming here. Nothing against the club, but I thought I can't play against non-league guys at Scarborough in pre-season. What chance have I got? And I only found out months down the line that Neil was having the same chat with his assistant. What have we done here? But in the end, it worked out. I think that season I played nearly 50 games. We got the playoff final. We got to the final of the FA Cup. I don't know if you remember it. Pesky leader Hedo Seaman at Old Trafford made an unbelievable save. We got beat 1-0. And we got beat by a young Stephen Gerrard's Liverpool over 2 legs in the semi-final League Cup, and got beat by Alec Ray and Paul Ince's Wolves in the playoffs. So it was probably one of the most successful seasons Sheffield United ever had. But if you'd have said at the beginning after my first game that I would go on and play, I think I played 86 games in 2 seasons for them. After a certain Mr. Jim Jeffries told me my legs had gone when I was at Bradford at 37. So every time I put my kit back on the peg, I used to say, cheers, Jim. It was his inspiration that kept me going.
Have you ever spoken to Jim about that since?
I spoke to him, but not since. Obviously, when I went back as Motherwell manager, we played Hearts a couple of times, but no, that never got mentioned.
Scott's, obviously Scottish father, but George Mulhall signed you for Bradford, former Aberdeen, Sunderland and Scotland player.
Yeah.
As a kind of first manager for you, Stuart, what kind of character was he?
Well, I'll be honest, I was a 16-year-old, well, in fact I was 15 and it was a testimonial game, on a end of season game testimonial, and me and my mum got the bus over to Bradford. I was just finishing school, and George says, "Okay, Mr. Mulhall," met my mum, obviously my mum being Scottish, and then I watched the game. I came back up to the manager's office, and my mum says, "That's done." I says, "What's done?" She says, "The contract's done, 2 years." Didn't even know what. They'd been on the whiskey together, you know, George, and they'd sorted my contract out without me even knowing. But I was just delighted to sign. And I think when you're a manager, you have more time. You've got so much to do with the first team and everything that goes around the manager. But the assistant manager was Lammy Robertson, another Scotsman. It was brilliant. And like I said, your assistants and your first team coaches have more to do with the young kids then. And he was great. So to have originally two Scotsmen in charge of my first professional, or going on to be a professional, was a great grounding for me.
I take it he put you on big money in your first contract?
Yes,
yeah.
I was on. I'll tell you even what now, I was on £20. I think my mum got £15 lodgings, and if we drew in the reserves, we got £4, and that took me over the tax bracket. So I was better off drawing. So every game I used to score on goals. If we draw, and I'd get £22. That's crazy, isn't it? Yeah. But if we won a game in the reserves, I was worse off because I got taxed. I remember that.
Can you remember what you treated yourself with that kind of big money? Did you go out and buy yourself something just to mark your entry into football?
I think I got a Milky Way or something like
wow.
that. You know what I mean? Yeah, I
wild.
spent big. Yeah. No, but it was let's say when I was playing for Farnsley Celtic, we played Bradford City, and 9 of the 11 guys had been signed up on apprentice forms. 4 at Leeds, 1 at Arsenal, 1 at Forest, 2 at Huddersfield, and I think the guy on the side just says, "Has any of these lads not been?" we played them in a game. Genuinely, we played Bradford City the 16s, and says, "Any of the?" He says, "Well, that little skinny ginger-haired kid in the midfield, he's not got a club." So I went on a 4-game trial, and they offered me a 2-year apprenticeship, and then come 3 years down the line, everyone, my mates and lads that had gone to Leeds and were out of the game. So I had gone to the lowest. Bradford were in the 4th division, but I was, from my first day, I was training with the first team, and you're just thrown in. There was only 2 apprentices, so I was doing 32 pair of boots a day, cleaning the baths, doing the ground, doing the divoting, getting a bus at the morning at 7 o'clock, 2 buses to Bradford, getting home at 7 o'clock. But I think that's what made me sort of want to have that desire. You know, I never got given anything, and it was hard work, but it was something I loved. I loved putting shining lads' boots, and you know, them coming in. And
was that proper character forming, do you think, Stuart?
I believe so.
Because I think when we think of you, certainly as a player, we always think of that grit, you know, the emotion, the desire. Do you think that was where it was kind of born, as such, those kind of characteristics?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, I had a good upbringing, even though my mum and dad split up when I think it was 11 or 12. But, you know, my family, my brother and sister and everybody, you know, we just brought up proper. And I remember we had to move to sort of a rough part of Leeds, me and my mum. My dad went back up to Scotland, and it used to be a little bit of trouble, but because I could play football, I was playing in the men's pubs teams on 14 on a Sunday, and if I got any bother, I'd say to one at men, "Hey, he's after me," and he'd go sort him out. So, yeah, just...
Who your dad with?
No, some of the boys I was playing with.
I beg your pardon.
You know what I mean? Some of the guys I was playing with. So I had to be good at football, or I got a few doings.
But did you then start to develop a toughness where you could look after yourself?
Possibly, yeah. I think, like I say, I was just, you know, brought up in an era really that you just cracked on with it, and you know, it was just even when we moved away and I wanted to go to the same school as my pals, I had to get 2 buses in the morning, get 2 buses back and things like that. You know, you just take for granted. You just walk around the corner, get to your school and that, and it was. But that was no big hardship. It was just like, but no, it was. I think certainly going in at Bradford at that age, and only being 2 apprentices, I think Leeds had 14 apprentices at that time, you know, young boys to do all the jobs. There was 2 of us, we used to do everything. But yeah, I just had took a pride in it. And then, as I said, we were training with the first team, and that sort of makes you, does it turn you into a man quicker? But it makes you, you know, toughen up really.
Yeah, the type of player that you became. Plenty of ability as well, I hasten to add, Stuart, but I think, is it necessary? You've got to be able to look after yourself in that kind of environment. You need to. You can't be soft. You can't be.
No, I think so. I think
bullied as such.
No, I think,
for want of a better phrase.
Well, that's right. Yeah, I mean, you've got to be careful with terminologies these days, haven't you? But if you're mentally weak, should I say then, and you know, if setbacks put you back and you've really not got that fight really to kick on, or you want to go do something else, this is a bit tough. I'll go move on. And because I remember at 15, like I say, all my pals had been signing up for clubs, and I was actually writing away to banks and building societies. I mean, no disrespect to any bankers out there, but the last thing I would have wanted to have done was work in a bank. But I was decent at maths and English. I was quite bright in that. But I thought the football side of it was going to pass me by. But my mum, my dad, and brothers, all just said, you know, keep your head down, keep working away. You never know if an opportunity will come up. And then, like I say, I was a very lucky footballer. I think I lost my luck when I became a manager, but I certainly was a lucky footballer.
Oh, I don't know about that. I mean, your coaching and managerial record's outstanding, Stuart. I mean, Bradford City, I mean, I think it's 5 spells you've had as player-manager spanning something like 40 years, Stuart. I mean, what is it possible for you to say what that club means to you?
Well,
properly, is it difficult to find the right words for it? Or?
No, I think obviously first and foremost they gave me the opportunity. I was a Leeds fan. My dad played for Leeds. I was born 300 yards. I was brought up for my first couple of years 300 yards away from Ellen Road. So I used to go watch Leeds, but Leeds were a top Division 1 side in them days, and I'd come to Bradford when they were in the 4th division. You know, so they were obviously top and the bottom.
Who were your main men at Leeds? Who were the Leeds United
well,
for you?
Obviously, the likes of, you know, Billy Bremner, a lot of Scottish connections, Eddie and Frank Gray, Peter Lorimer, Joe Jordan. Unfortunately, all these I found out later on came from the wrong side of Glasgow, right enough. But big Gordon McQueen made up for it. But David Harvey, to all them players, and then later on, you know, Tony Curry was my favourite, who I went on to obviously meet when he was at Sheffield United. He worked at Sheffield United, which was great for me. But the big Scottish connection Leeds had. So when I went to Bradford, I had 2 years to try to make a go of it. And you know, when I look back, I left Bradford at, I think, was 24, and when I left, we actually were higher than Leeds in the table that when we'd left. So it was some turnaround really. I never could have foreseen that.
No, I mean, it was, you know, your first spell as a player, outstanding, absolutely outstanding. And you know, I spoke to a good range of people in one-on-one, Stuart, you know, and they talk about the managers that have influenced them. And you know, you go to Everton. I think it was Colin Harvey signed you for Everton. Everton legend. What kind of man was he, you know, as a manager?
Brilliant. I think even before that, Derek, I was so fortunate because obviously when George left, Roy McFarlane came in at Bradford. I mean, he was, you know, a Derby and England legend, you know, centre half. And then Roy moved on, and Trevor Cherry came in.
Leeds United legend.
Yeah, and Terry Other, who was his assistant. So I had really good professionals, top people that had done things in the game and had the right way and the right sort of attitude and everything about that. So I was fortunate there. And then, you know, I would have stayed at Bradford forever because, unfortunately, in the 85 season when we got promoted, obviously there was the tragedy, the fire disaster, and that, I thought, bonded everybody. And you know, I've always had a special and close bond with the club through that. But then when I go to Everton, we miss out on the playoffs. They just brought the playoffs in the old Division 1. And we got beat by Middlesbrough, and Colin was there that night, and I signed for Everton. And again, another guy that I would put on a level where he was just, you know, before being a good coach and a good manager, he was just a really good person. And that means so much to me, you know, when you can trust people, and they're there to help you, and they want to develop you. And Colin was just and not, you know, obviously being a top midfielder, I thought I was going to learn a lot from him, and I did. And he was just for me, first and foremost, a really top person and a really good coach.
Fantastic club, of course.
Yeah.
Everyone knows, of course, Stuart, 2 goals at Wembley, FA Cup final. You know, heartbreakingly for you, you finished in the losing side, but the experience of it all would have still been pretty remarkable for you.
It was. That was my first season, and I'd joined Everton at 24, and I'd been captain at Bradford since I was 22. I'd gone from a big fish in a little pond, if you like, to you know, a little fish in in a big pond, because I went in with all internationals, you know, to play alongside Peter Reid. I learned so. Peter was only at the club for 6 months, but I learned so much about a character, him, because he was going through a tough time, but he demanded the best from everyone, and demanded the best from himself, and it was all about standards. And you know, Colin had that, Reedy, with loads of internationals in the team there. Big Graham Sharp, Pat Nevin came same time as myself. Yeah, so it was but that first season, I scored I didn't score many for them, but I scored in the quarter-final to beat Wimbledon, who were the holders. They beat Liverpool the previous season. We beat them at Goodison. And I was beginning, even though Colin had played me every game, we went up to Newcastle on Tuesday and we got beat, and he left me out the next game, and I never got back in. And obviously we went to the semi-final and we played that. So I think there was 5 games to go. So even though I'd always been involved, when we got to Wembley, I didn't even know until 1 o'clock that I was going to be on the bench. There was only 2 on the bench some days. And I'd played most of the games all season. So to get a game and then to come on and, you know, manage to get a couple of goals, I couldn't wait for the next season to start, because it took me a season at Everton to felt I really belong here. I'd just been happy to play a bit part, and I was a little bit timid and meek, and I never really showed Everton, you know, players, staff or fans what I really could do. And my next 2 seasons were a lot better, but I think obviously doing okay in the cup final helped personally for me.
Proper characters in that Everton dressing room, Stuart. Yeah. Quite a lively dressing room on and off the pitch.
Oh gosh, in them days it was, you know, they were so lively. Lot of characters, as you say.
Sports science. Big in those days, Stuart.
I think sports science was like you had to meet you had to meet on a Sunday afternoon for a few beers and that. Oh gosh, no, they were. But you also knew that the other teams, the Man United and Liverpool, their lads, they were doing exactly the same.
Steak and chips pre-match.
Well, yeah. But no, it's obviously changed days nowadays, rightly so. But yeah, I had 3 really, although not successful in the fact that Everton had great success prior to me going there a couple of seasons before, but I loved all because the supporters were fantastic to me, and they were a really loyal bunch.
So Colin Harvey signed you. Howard Kendall sold you?
Yes, yeah.
I mean, another huge managerial figure.
He was, yeah, and he had great success with Everton, and he came back, and I felt, you know, because he knew a lot of the lads that he'd had success with, you know, the ones that had been sort of brought in when I hadn't been there would get, not say forced out, but that never really happened. And he played me quite a lot, didn't he? But I knew coming to the end of the season that, in fact, I got a phone call with three games to go this season from, I don't know who it was. I know it was a journalist. It wasn't Jim White and it wasn't Chick Young, I can state that. But asking me if I'd be interested in joining Rangers.
This is a middleman.
A middleman, yes. Yeah, I didn't know it was, and I'm thinking, and I said to him, I remember saying, what, Berwick Rangers? He went, no, Glasgow Rangers, would you? And I'm thinking, is this somebody from Everton at it? Because I was really happy at Everton, I wasn't looking to go anywhere. And
you think it was one of your teammates at the time?
Well, I just didn't know. No, I didn't know it was. And anyway, he says, no, Mr. Souness has asked me to ring you, and he'd like you to join Rangers in the summer. I says, well, you know, obviously Rangers were my club as a boy. If I had a chance to go and play, you know, under Graham Souness, one of the best midfielders Scotland's ever produced, you know what I mean, and Britain, then it would be something in the summer that I would naturally think of. Because I sort of knew, my agent had told me that Howard was looking to bring some money into the club and bring his own players in. So I thought that might be a chance. And you can imagine 2 days later I pick up the paper and Mr. Souness has decided to go to Liverpool. So that was it. I never heard anything else until even in the close season. And then I got a call, I think 2 days before our first league game at Everton, saying, get yourself up to Murray Park and, you know, Rangers are wanting you. And it was, I knew Archie, but I didn't know hardly anything about the gaffer, Walter. But it was obviously the best decision. But it was, Everton were happy for me to go.
Yeah.
They got some money in and they got some players in. And obviously once it was come about that I could go join Rangers, then I think I flew up myself. I didn't need a plane.
If I could just rewind a little bit, Rangers, where had that come from? Was that your father?
No.
Was it just a natural kind of instinct?
It was all me. I mean, if I've got four uncles called Billy, I think that maybe tells you where it comes from. But no, all my cousins and my uncles, every school holiday, without doubt, me and my mum used to get on the train, from Leeds up to Glasgow, a little can of Iron Brew, the Daily Record, and off we went, and up there, and 3 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever it may be. And I used to go, because we were from Hamilton, I used to go and get lifted over the turnstiles at Accies, and then if I could get a ticket and a bus in, I used to go with my cousins to Rangers games, you know, back in the 70s, late 70s it was, yeah. So Derek Parlane and people like that, Big DJ, Sandy Jardine, great late Sandy Jardine was there as well at the time when I used to go watch. I didn't go, I was probably about half a dozen games, but no, it were all sort of family. My dad was just a football man. He wasn't, you know, Rangers or Celtic. He'd, as a young guy, he'd gone over to India in the war, and he'd come back, and through football, he ended up his first gig was down at Blackpool with Stanley Matthews and Mortensen, you know, and my dad played there, and then went to West Brom and then Leeds, and that's hence I was born in Leeds. But yeah, no, it was just me basically my uncles and my cousins really.
What did it mean to you when you signed for Rangers? How well you were doing in your career? Yeah,
listen, because I never mentioned this, the phone call that I'd had to anyone apart from obviously my close family, and then when obviously Graham had gone to Liverpool, I thought, you know, any chance of me going to Rangers, that would be it. And thankfully it flipped about, and I got the opportunity. But yeah, I mean, once I joined, I can't remember how many phone calls and cards I had from long lost cousins I'd never even heard of and knew, and people faking to be my cousin. Anyone with a McCall name was onto me. But no, it was just, I think they were proud, and you know, I know a couple of my uncles were very proud, and you know, they came to the games.
When you discovered that Graham Souness had left for Liverpool,
yeah,
were you crushed at that thought? It's not going to happen at Rangers. This is possibly the one chance it's come and gone.
I just thought, well, no, because to be honest,
it wasn't even an offer.
No,
as such,
I'd never even give Rangers a thought when I was playing at Everton. I never thought about going to Scotland or anything. It just came right out of the blue. But then when that carrot gets dangled, you start thinking, well, maybe in the summer, if Everton want me to go, and if I'm going to go anywhere, what a club to go to. But then when I couldn't believe it. I picked up a paper. I thought, is this a wind up? And I thought, I wonder if Graham will want me at Liverpool. I wonder if Everton will let me go to Liverpool. But nah, yeah, it was at the time. But then you've just got to get on with it. It's one of them things. There's no point moping about and going, oh, this could have been and that could have been. And then when I got a call from my agent, we'd just come back from a pre-season tour with Everton in Switzerland, and like I say, out of the blue Thursday morning, and I had to get up and sign by Thursday, 12 o'clock for the European deadline. And Trevor Steven was going in, and David Money took great satisfaction later on in life telling me that he knew Trevor obviously went to Marseille, and I don't even think I even knew how much I was getting at Rangers or whatever. It was just get up there, get in.
You're kidding me.
No, honestly,
really?
I'm pretty sure it was the same money I was on at Everton, and I just wanted to be there. And he always takes great pleasure. David afterwards saying, you could have got a lot more money out of us, you know. Listen, I just wanted to go through. I was actually saying, see if Trevor don't go through, can you still sign me, please? I'll pay you to play. But yeah, so I managed to get it done on the Thursday night, and that was it.
Have you still got a clear memory of that day you actually signed, Stuart?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, because we went into for a couple of reasons. I flew up. I remember ringing Howard Kendall. Thing was, Howard's agent was my agent, so he obviously knew what was going on, and he rung me in the afternoon, Thursday afternoon. I think our league was starting on the Saturday, and he said, "Oh, I said, I'm just ringing you. Where are you?" I says, "Oh, I'm just in a house." You know, I says, "All right, okay." And over the tannoy, I was in Manchester Airport, and it was bing bong, the next flight to Edinburgh. He knew where I was, all right. You know what I mean? But I couldn't. He says, okay, all right, I'll see you tomorrow then. But he knew I was flying up. So just got up in time, went to David Murray's offices in Edinburgh. Archie was there. Archie picked me up. He drove me back to Glasgow, so I had to have a quick medical before 12 o'clock. I think he hit every bollard on the motorway. When you see like 3 lanes going into 2 into 1, and Archie's just speaking to me saying, "Oh, you'll love it at Rangers." I'm going, "Yeah, Archie, look, there's bollards coming." You know, and he's hitting all these bollards and cones. I'm going, I'm not even going to get there and sign. Yeah, got there, went for a bite to eat that night, and it was, you know, gosh, unless you've actually lived it.
Buzzing.
Yeah, but even the next day, and you sign and you go in and I just went for a cake or whatever. And all women behind the counter knew you know, oh, you're the new Rangers player, and they give you extra blooming sausage rolls or whatever. Yeah, and I mean, as you know, everyone just lives and breathes. Well, majority of people just live and breathe football up in Scotland. And yeah, so it was a great moment. We trained at Ibrox on the Friday ahead of going to, and I've got to say, I looked round. I knew most of I knew a lot of the players from Scotland. You know, Goffey and Coisty, and the goalie was there. And we were training, and I was just looking around. It's when they had the coloured seats at Ibrox. And I was just looking around, the ball was going under my foot, and I think the lads were going, what the hell have we signed here, you know? And I was just in awe of everything. I was 27, I wasn't a young kid. And then we went to Hearts on the Saturday, and we got beat 1-0. Scott Crabbe scored, and I thought, not a great start. But thankfully, we managed to pick it up.
Was that the freak one, where the goalie got caught?
Well, no, the goalie went wide. Yeah, Andy, it was wide of you, but it wasn't wide of the post. Yeah, but I learned a lot that day. We came in, and actually the first half we had all the possession, played, but not had many shots on goal. And I thought if we'd been at Everton in an away game here, we'd have come in going, yeah, you know, it's coming, we're controlling the game. And the gaffer, absolutely mad. He went up to Goffey and says, no more tippy-tappy football. There's only one thing we do here, and it's win. And it sort of just, wow, this is a standard. Well, because we'd actually played okay. And I thought if he's doing that to his captain. But remember, the gaffer he'd only just taken over that season properly. So he had to put his mark on it. And we were getting beat 1-0. Unfortunately, his words didn't, you know, stamp from much because we still got beat 1-0. But that opened my eyes straight away, and I thought, I'm going to have to, if I want to be playing in this team and successful in this team, I'm going to have to up my game. You
would have known of Walter. Did you particularly know him at all? Had you come across him in any...
I didn't really know him at all. I knew Archie, obviously, because he'd worked down in England, and he'd come to watch me when he was with Fergie at Aberdeen. I knew of Archie, but I honestly knew very little of the gaffer.
First impressions when he came in, was there that natural kind of presence right away? Did you sense
yeah.
him? Sure,
I've got a picture when I signed on the at Ibrox and that, and his big hands, and just an aura and a presence about him, yeah, without a doubt. And obviously went on to be, you know, you talk about Rangers legends and people talk about players, but probably for me he's up there as one of the biggest.
He set the standard, always immaculate as well.
Yep.
Disciplinarian, standards, appearance, proper history of Rangers as well. Did that just naturally influence every player really that came in? Yeah.
I mean, I can't believe it. I just signed a new deal with Nike when I was at Everton. And I had some good gear, all free gear. And then we obviously went in and it was shirt and tie. And I got called Willie One Tie for the first 2 months because I only had one tie. And but it was standard, and you went in, and you know that's what it was about, and you know it was upheld, and yeah, and not only that, a massive part of the club as well. Every day I'm seeing like a legend like John Greggs coming down, and not telling us how good he was or what it was like in his day, but just giving the new lads, you know, a little bit of insight into the club, what it means or what it takes to be a Rangers player. Because he was working there, and then we had the great late Sandy Jardine coming down. He was on the commercial department. Just not
magnificent football people.
But basically that's
absolute gentlemen as well.
Yeah, everything. You know, they couldn't have been helped me settle in more. And obviously had the gaffer and Archie and that. But to have like legends about a football club, say legends, people like that, you know, made you know what playing for Rangers was. And what the standards needed to be kept to if you wanted to be a Rangers player.
Tell me about that first dressing room you walked into, Stuart. I mean, obviously you've got the goalie, you've got Richard Gough. Tell me about the. I'm fascinated to know the social side of things. You know, how the team bonding, what that dressing room's idea of team bonding was like.
Yeah, it was lively naturally, but I think that can only come with. If you're successful. I mean, no support wants to see the players out and about having a couple of beers if you... It was sort of catch-22. So I remember seeing Charlie Nicholas out one night in one of the clubs when all the Rangers lads were out. And he says, that's why we're not doing so well and you are. He says, because all you lads are out together. But we were only out together because we were being successful. You know, you don't want to be out and about and jumping about town and having a couple of beers with everyone and being like sort of bonding, if you like, if you're not producing on the park. So it was I understood where Charlie was coming from. He says, if we were a bit more like that, we'd be, you know. But it was, like I say, I was fortunate. I had 7 years there, and unfortunately, in a period of time where we were, you know, quite successful.
You worked hard, but you played hard. Would that be fair?
Yeah, I think I mean, obviously, Goffey coined the phrase into what was it? We play hard, we work hard. Lads who, you know, drink together, stay together, or whatever it was. But no, it was just one of the things. It was, you know, if it was somebody's birthday or something. But what I do remember of it, I mean, we weren't out all the time, but say end of season games or functions that we had. You know, the gaffer and Archie, you know, they'd be the last ones there on the tables. I used to be under the table, but they were on them. But it was just a unique time, because a lot of players then came through together. You know, you lads like you obviously Balmer, Durante, Ian Ferguson, Coisty, Goffey. You know, a lot of, you know, the Scottish-based players, Scottish lads in there, and obviously the goalie, and then David Robertson had come in, and you know, that team and that group stayed together for a good few years, and that mentality builds. Do you think Walter and Archie did that brilliantly, Stuart? Because you couldn't have had that social, you wouldn't have had that slack cut for you if the managing team didn't want that. But they recognised the players they had, gave you that leeway, but they knew they were getting it back on the pitch. Yeah, but I think he also knew that they trusted us to do it at the right times. Yeah. You know, there's a time and place for anything. You know, if you win, go out and have a couple of beers, not a problem. But there's a time and place to enjoy that side of it, and that was the case. And listen, the gaffer, he had some problem characters and problem players, and they were in and out of his. I think in 7 years I was only in his office once. I lost for an indiscretion, so to speak. Yeah, what an indiscretion. No, it was. I thought I should have played in a certain game at Hibs, and he brought me on at half time. He saw the error of his ways, and he brought me on, and we beat Hibs 4-3. But no, I remember it was one of them. And did he admit to his error of the ways? No, I bet he didn't. No, he did. It wasn't an error. It was right. I'd just come back from an knee injury, and I'd played 3 or 4 games, and you have that high, and then you sort of just. But it just happened to be in Edinburgh, and it was the last season, and me and Jucky had been telling all the lads, and we had a lot of foreign boys in at the time, the Italian boys. I think there was only 2 Scottish boys started at Hibs that day. Or, in fact, Gazza was one, not Scottish, 2 British lads. Alan Cleland might have been the other one. Yeah. And we've been explaining to them on the Friday night how much this game meant. So the gaffer was under a little bit of pressure. We'd been beating Europe, we'd been beating the Cups, the league. You know, even though we were going for 10, we weren't far away. Us and Celtic were quite tight, and we drilled into everyone how big a game it was. And then when you named the team at lunchtime, me and Jucky were both on the bench, and it was like that. Oh, yeah, I was. Yeah. And anyway, cut long story short, I'd walked out and the door, the window was open. It was a warm day, and I had a big oak panel door in the hotel, and I'd shut it behind me. Archie had said, "Do I want any tickets?" Because I used to always want tickets. I said, "No, stick your tickets." I was like a spoiled boy, but I knew how much this game meant. And I've gone down the dual staircase to the bottom, and by the time I get there, and there were all these Japanese tourists checking in and taking pictures, and by the time I got to the bottom, the gaffer had come down the other steps because he thought I'd slammed the door on him, but I hadn't. I just pulled it behind, and the wind caught it. And he says, "Get your bag and F off back to Glasgow." And I was like that. And Archie says, "Get yourself on the bus, get up the back and don't let him see you." So I sneaked on the bus and got to the ground. And Gaffer sort of looked at me and said, "What are you doing here, you know?" Anyway, we only had 3 subs, so I was on the bench, and we were 2-1 down. He brought me on at half time, and straight away goal, 3-1 Hibs. But then Albert scored a 30-yard as he did. Gazza got I think a 30-yard free kick, and I slipped Negri through for him to score me 1-4-3. So, but that was the only one time in 7 years that I had any crossword or anything with him at all. And it was my fault. my desire, because I knew what a big game it was. And like I said, the night before, we'd been in sort of, we had no Goffey, there was no, the goalie wasn't there, Coisty wasn't there, Durante wasn't there, Fergie wasn't there, Bomber wasn't there, you know, the lads, and it was a big season naturally. But yeah, it was just one of them things.
Who were you closest to in that dressing room?
Oh, too many to say, I've got to be honest. A room with Juki, all of them. Still speak to a lot of them this day, and we do functions together with Durante, Coisty. Obviously, the goalie was a good pal of mine as well, and Bomber I see regular now, big Mark Haley. So you know, we keep in contact when we go to things like say functions or even the games and things like that. So yeah, we'll always. And you can always reminisce about the good times, can't you?
Is it? See, when you get together again, is it like you've never been apart?
Yeah.
That's the strength of any relationship we lose.
It was funny because I was at a function a couple of weeks back, and with Bomber and Big Mark, and Bomber was panning me and giving me right stick, and I was giving him it back. I thought, we said, no changes, does it? Even 30 years on, whoever it is, we're both battering each other about certain things and certain games and what goals he give away, and because he's, you know, and I talk about, I played 25 games against Celtic, but never managed to score a goal. And as I say, even he scored, Bomber. So if Bomber can score, what chance have we got? All the defenders. But he takes great pride in telling me he managed to score against them.
It was a phenomenal team you were part of, Stuart. I mean, I think within, 2 years you being there, you could have been in a Champions League final. You were so close, given the setup of the Champions League at that particular time.
That's right, you know, we went to Marseille, it was winner take all. Obviously, Big Mark was suspended. And, you know, Durante got a great goal, I remember that. We drew 1-1, so we went actually 10 games in Europe undefeated that year, but because of the way the league table was, Marseille went through at the final and beat Milan, didn't they? And I think then they got it taken off them for the bribery and all that stuff. But listen, it was a great time to be involved. Went 44 games undefeated, but I always knew the season after, how are you going to follow that? That was the thing. Where does that team do you think deserve to rank in Scottish football history, Stuart? You know, in terms of the quality of it and the achievements. Yeah, I think again, I spoke to a couple of boys the other week when we got together about it, and the Rangers will always remember Gaza and Laudrup signing and Big George and Ammo and that. But I'm probably, well, as history will show, our most successful season was the 92-93 season when we got obviously did the treble and I went so near in Europe, and that was with, because it was a home, you know, 3 foreigner rule at the time. You know, you could only have three foreign players in your group. So as much as Gascoigne was superb, great, Laudrup and all, you know, top players, probably that season for me, the 92-93 season. The 96 season was good when we managed to culminate doing a double beating Hearts in the cup final 5-1. But I think the 92-93 season, for memories and a group together, because we didn't have individual stars. It was just a collective. You know, we had the goalie in goal, we had Goffey, we had Haley and McCoist up front. You know what I mean? You'd always got chances to score goals with them too.
I mean, you played in the 25 Old Firm games. In your mind, playing against Celtic, and you would have won far more than you lost, Stuart. Can you describe what the games at Ibrox and Park Caird were like?
Yeah, incredible. I think the 3 games, probably my first 3 games sum it up. The first game, we managed to win it to Park Caird. I slipped Haley through. I say slipping through, I'll give it the ball on the halfway line. He ran 60 yards and scored, and we won 2-0. And then the next game at home, I invite all my family up, and my mum and my sister and everybody, and we get beat 2-0 at home. And I go out that night and, you know, go for a bite to eat, and you know, the owner gives us a little bit of stick for getting beat, and my mum's like that, you know, what's it like? What, you know, if you get a beat? I said, and I remember saying to the owner, we play these in the cup in 10 days' time, and if we come back, he said, well, if you win that, you can come back and give you a free bite to eat. So we went out, and in 10 days' time, it was it.
What a gent of it.
Yeah. But it was a game for me that if it had gone the other way, possibly 9 in a row would never have been done, because we've been beat by Hibs in the Skol Cup. We've been knocked out of the Europe by Sparta Prague. We're ahead in the league, but not by much. As I say, Celtic had just beat us at Ibrox 2-0, and you know there were questions: is the gaffer the right man? Has he made the right signings? And we went out that night, and you know David Robertson got sent off after 6 minutes, caught with Joe Miller, and it was like bouncing down, and we just dug in. And I remember I nicked the ball off Derek White, squared to Coisy 18-yard, but then he put it in the bottom corner, what Coisy always did, and we held on. And we looked around in the dressing room after that, and if we can beat our nearest rivals, or biggest rivals, you know, with basically only, you know, almost 85 minutes to play with 10 men. And I thought that night, that's when the Gaffer's team were born. You know, the new signings he brought in. And again, I think if we'd have lost that night, who's to say, you know, the pressure might not have built. So, you know, fine line sometimes.
How emotional for you is it even now, Stuart, to think Andy Goram, the goalie?
Oh. So much. I mean, you know, people always, it's the most common question you get asked at functions or anywhere is, who's the best player you've ever played with? And I'm fortunate, you know, with Everton, Scotland, Rangers to played with, you know, some really, you know, top players. But I always say the one world-class player, and by world class, I mean at that time when I was playing with him, would have got in a world 11 for me, was a goalie. Peter Schmeichel was playing at that time.
Really?
Yeah, and I played with Big Neville Southall at Everton, who I thought
phenomenal,
was unbelievable. But the goalie had 2 years before he had his knee injuries and his knee problems. Now, it didn't matter if you're saving it in the top corner against Ajax or if it's against Stirling Albion. You know, goalie's got to make saves. And he would, and even in training. It was just an incredible goalkeeper, because I think he was only just touching 6 foot. You know, he wasn't a giant in goal, but everything, worked so hard at his game, his reflexes, his one-on-ones. Yeah, he was just, for me, he was a one player. At that time, I think I looked around, I thought, well, who's better than him, you know, in that period?
I think if there was 2 Rangers players in particular, the Celtic fans would be cussing, it would be Andy.
Yeah.
Because there was umpteen games where Rangers would get a doing and he would keep them out. And then, of course...
And myself, yeah. Thank you. Yeah. And obviously you're going to say Super Ali.
Well...
Got to be.
I mean,
as Finisher's goal,
where does he rank in terms of what you've known in football, Stuart?
Yeah, incredible. And do you know, with Coisty, people that see it, he's got that... He had a streak about him. Because everyone used to see him score and run over to corner flag with his big silly celebrations, his big grins and that. But he had a I'd say a nasty streak, but he had a winning streak about him. And yeah, and people, oh, you missed that one, Coisty. But he'd put himself there again and get himself in between the posts. I mean, 300 and, I don't know how many, incredible. 300 unbelievable goals. And yeah, so as I said, you know, he had the best goalkeeper, probably the best goal scorer, allied with Big Haitley, probably one of the best leaders in Goffey. And then fitting in that jigsaw all around it, you know, a little bit of sort of team spirit and aggression and whatever else. In that early part of the season, you know, early part of my time at Rangers, spirit and just togetherness, really.
What was the best Celtic side you faced, Stuart? Was it Tommy Burns' side or was it Wim Janssen's latterly?
Yeah, I think, listen, when you've got likes of, was it Van Hooijdonk, Tom, these other strikers, or Di Canio or Cadet, yeah. I mean, Tommy Burns' side, I mean, they only lost 1 game that season. We lost 3, you know, so they obviously drew too many. And so they pushed us all the way. That's why I think like that season was the best for us. We, apart from the 92-93 season, 96, to culminate in doing the double against Hearts in such an impressive manner, having just won the league in such a tight race. But then I think what happened with Celtic was, to be honest, when the 98 season is, they got a few more, I would say, homegrown players in. You know, like your Lamberts and your Stubbs, Burleys, Tosh McKinleys, and then through that season you'd see them doing the bonding things, and you know, because he had some top players like some McStay and Collins in the earlier time, and then obviously Di Canio and people like that. But I think they had more sort of togetherness in that last season. I
was going to ask, ahead of derbies privately, who would be the Celtic players that you would respect the most, Stuart? Who would you think, right, he's proper, I need to keep an eye on him?
I think the ones that I played with, obviously I played with Paul McStay and John Collins with Scotland. And when we went away, there were no divide, Rangers, Celtic, whatever. We were all in it together, you know what I mean? So, and I'd roomed with John when he was at Hibs and I was at Everton on one of my first international games. So I respected both of them as midfield players. And yeah, you know, everyone that you've got to respect all your opponents, but them two sort of stood out for me as, and it must have been hard for Paul looking back. John got out. He got out of Scottish football because I remember John saying to me with that because he were playing the same stadiums every week or 4 times a season, and that he wanted to go, you know, play abroad and play in England, whereas Paul sort of stayed with Celtic throughout his career, really.
Did you admire that aspect of him? Because he would often get slaughtered for a lack of ambition, but Celtic meant everything to him, and he stayed through some really tough times as well.
I 100% I do, because as I said before, if things had changed at Bradford, I might have stayed there all my career after the bond I had with them. But no, I did, yeah, and it must have been hard. It's hard for anyone when you're with a team that's your team and you're not getting the success that you would like. So it must have been tough for him, yeah. But yeah, he was a good guy. He was a good guy and a top player.
The 96-97 season obviously was momentous for Rangers. He won 9. Now, I think on the face of it, people would think he didn't have enough appearances for a medal. But Walter arranged that for you, did he? Did he?
Yeah, he did.
He wanted you to have a medal.
Yeah, well, as I told him, I mean, I did my knee against Ajax in Europe, but I played 7 league games. And as I said to Gaffer, not only have I played 7, we won all 7. And that played a big part in us getting 9. And so, yeah, it was in the end of the season, you know, he got me a medal. So I've got 6 medals at home. Or 6 league medals, should I say. When
he left in 98, how emotional was that? Because it was also the breakup of the team as well. And you all knew it, didn't you?
Yeah. No, it was...
Tears?
Yeah. I remember me, Coyce and Durante going down to the dressing room to say farewell, phone for farewell. And all 3 of us broke down. Yeah, it was emotional, but then you always turn that into, well, listen, let's not cry about what we've missed out on. Let's look back at what we've been fortunate to have together, and as people, and you know, we ended up having a good night in the end, really, just by memories and reminiscing. But yeah, listen, I had a year left, and Dick Advocaat spoke to me. He wanted me to stay for a year and help the younger boys coming through, your Charlie Millers and obviously Barry Ferguson, Derek McInnes, people like that, even though he was bringing players in. But he would have been happy. I wouldn't have got much game time, but I realised then, you know, it was a end of an era. It was a breakup. You know, Coyce moved on, Durante, the Gaffer, Archie, a lot of the players were moving on, and it just felt right for me to move.
Up until his really sad passing, did Walter remain somebody that you would speak to regularly? Would he remain a kind of mentor figure for you?
Not in the regards that I used to ring him up, I've got to be honest, because I used to always think I was a burden, and it's not something, that's just me personally, ringing him up, yeah.
You didn't want to trouble him? You didn't want to
trouble him, yeah. But I can remember, it was only, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago, I went to an LMA function at the Etihad, and Pep Guardiola was speaking, and he was brilliant, and it was a group of about 40, 50 coaches, and it was on the back of the Gaffer, you know, not being so well, even though, and then I went not expecting to be there, and he was there, and for all brilliant Pep Guardiola was, and meeting the other coaches and that, the 10 minutes I had a cup of tea with the Gaffer, that's all I could talk about when I went home, you know, and to people, to see him, he was looking so well and doing well, and just talking football and reminiscing and that, and you know, he always brought just a smile. I even think about him now, and like saying, not so much as a manager, as a coach, but just as a man. You know, and yeah, just great values, great standards, and yeah, everything that that you want anyone to be, really.
A proper kind of Scottish football great, would be fair to say, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think for me, you know, when again the question got brought up, who's the biggest legend at Rangers? Somebody asked me, you know, in a Q&A there a couple of weeks ago, and obviously Greggy's up there as the greatest living Ranger. Coyce obviously for his goals and whatever. But for me, you know, the Gaffer should be right at the top of that list, you know, because what he's done, what he did for the club, and then come back and do well again. So yeah, he'd be at the head of it for me.